Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know, if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concertsthatmadeus.com.
Hi guys, this is Kenny Hughes, and you're listening to The Concerts That Made Us.
Shut your eyes now, baby. Shut your eyes now, little one. And nothing's getting through me, and now it's safe to come home. It's easy to forget me. It's easy for you to move on. You'll be running back soon. You'll be running back home. If I look now, just where I am, and if I think now, this'll be my last stand. The world behind me, the world be down. This is me. This is my last stand. You have to forget me. You have to move on. Nothing's gonna save me. Now my time has come. Hell, I'm trying to chase me. Hell, I'm trying to bring me down. But I'm going down fighting. I'm gonna stand my ground. If I look now,
Kenny Hughes, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's brilliant to have you now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. So, your latest single, Last Stand, drops on Friday, 4th of August. What can you tell us about it?
Well, when I just started out with music, you have a lot of people telling you how difficult it's going to be, and they tell you all about the challenges and things. And I was sort of wide-eyed and expectant. I thought initially, at least, that um, I was going to find that pot at the end of the rainbow, so to speak, And I only realized once I was doing it for at least a couple months, maybe a year or two, just how difficult it is. It's definitely one of the tougher industries to be in. And I mean, there's challenges along the way that you can't really anticipate and stuff. And I figured that you can't really rely on other people to do it for you. A lot of it you have to do yourself. It's a very select few that actually get that lucky break, so to speak, that reach some form of success overnight. And yeah, Last Stand is basically my ode to the ride and to the challenge and to my independence, having to do it all myself. And I guess there's a sort of freedom in that in of itself.
Yeah. Can we dive a bit deeper into that for a second? You say you never grasped how hard it would be. I feel like that's kind of fairly obvious that, only like 1% of people actually make it.
Yeah, definitely. But when you start out, you feel like, I don't know, you feel like player one in your own video game. As long as you're doing certain things in the correct order or whatever, things are just going to unfold for you. But there's so many twists and turns, and I mean, situations like COVID, for example, that completely put the brakes on my career. It, you have to sort of look past that and see the bigger picture. You have to understand that it's cool if you stick with it and you feel like it's really what you want to be doing with your life, then it doesn't matter what comes up. You're going to get through it anyway. And yeah, that's basically what the song's about. It's about facing those type of things head on and realizing that you've got your own back before anyone else does, and you just got to keep pushing through.
True, true. Do you feel like it's one of them things where you get to a certain point and you feel like, okay, I may not be playing stadiums, but I'm doing what I love and that's enough for me?
100%. That is exactly what it is. Yeah. I had an office job right out of high school, and I realized very quickly that's not the path I'm going to be following. And so when I started making music full time as a professional musician, it felt like home immediately. And uh, you have problems at home as well, but it's still home. So that's what it was like for me in music. It doesn't really matter to me where I'm playing, or all that matters is that I'm playing, and I was going to be sitting in my room playing anyway. I might as well go out and do it in front of three people if there happen to only be three people. It's still music and it's still what I love. And yeah, it just feels like home. And yeah, like I said, there's a great freedom in that.
It's a great way to look at it, all right. And Everett's name and produced and played drums on the track. What was it like trying to find the right producer to match your vision?
So I've been working with Effort for quite a few years now, actually. I released a previous single of mine. The first single I recorded with him was 1920, and I released that in 2020. And ever since then, every time I've come up with a new song that I felt was worthy of recording, I call Effort up and we make a plan. And I just love his vision. He brings such a creative spin to every song I walk into the studio with. And while I have a general idea of what I want the song to sound like and where I want it to go, he's just got this. It's just another perspective. It's the age-old adage that two heads are better than one, and his head is amazing. He's got a brilliant musical mind. And so I always walk out of the studio with a song sounding completely different, although it's got the same skeleton. All the meat and all the flesh and sinew and everything is totally different, and that's what makes it unique for me. So whenever I can, I mean, we live very far apart. He lives on the other side of the country, so when we can, then I like to record with him just because I love his perspective.
Yeah, I get you. I get you. And what's your approach to songwriting then? Where do you get your inspiration? How do you lay out a song?
So it usually starts with some sort of guitar line for me. So whether it's a riff or a random lick or just a chord progression or whatever it is, if I feel like it, if I feel like it ignites some sort of inspiration for a lyrical line or whatever, then I will put my cell phone's voice recorder on. I'll jam the line or the chord progression or whatever a few times. I'll sing a bunch of random things over it and for a couple minutes, and then I'll go back and listen to the recording. And then I'll pick out the parts of it that I like a lot. And then I sort of build it like a puzzle. Sometimes it happens very quickly, sometimes it's a matter of minutes, and I have a basic full song, you know. I mean, obviously you can color it in later or whatever. And sometimes it takes a lot longer. Sometimes I have to revisit the recording a few times and make a few recordings until I'm quite satisfied with it. I feel like a lot of people write that way these days, and I'm not one of those guys that can just sit down and write down the lyrics to a full song. I've never been able to do that. It always starts with the guitar for me.
Right, right. Here's an interesting one now. When you're writing a song, how do you know when it's finished?
Well, no song is ever a finish. No song is ever finished. They are only abandoned, right?
It's a good one.
Yeah. So I don't know. When I feel like it's reached certain length parameters, you know, like in this day and age, especially if you want your songs to play on radio, then they need to fit within a certain time frame, and that would be generally around the 3 minute, 3.5 minute mark. Sometimes they're a bit longer or whatever. And if I feel like a song is just getting too long, then I'll edit it and cut out pieces that are just unnecessary fluff. You know, I'll cut that out. And but usually it's just, I don't know. Usually the song tells me it's done. You know, it's not really in my control at that point.
Just feels right.
It just feels right. Exactly.
Yeah. And this track in particular, then, how do you think it captures your evolution as an artist since your first release?
It gets back. It gets back to some form of blues for me. So I've always been a blues man. I always will be a blues man. But a lot of my previous singles were a bit more into the funk realm, maybe a bit more into the rock realm. Some people might argue that they had a bit of a pop influence. I've heard that on a few occasions, and it always catches me by surprise. But hey, I'll take I'll take any critique I can get. But for me, this song actually gets back to what I started out playing. I started off as a blues guy, and it's got a very bluesy intro, at least to me. And yeah, to me that felt right as well. It's actually a riff that I've been playing for many years. I just haven't put it to real good use. And now finally, yeah, the song sort of unfolded. I walked into the studio, played it for Effort. He gave me his influence on it and everything, and it just worked out well. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know. We'll see how it does. I'm sure it'll do pretty well. I'm sure there's always going to be people that hate it, but I'm sure there'll be people that love it. And yeah, so with regards to my evolution as an artist, I don't know. I feel like that's up to the listener if they've listened to my discography to say if it's an improvement or if I've digressed into a previous level again. I don't know.
Right, right. And you know, what is it about the blues that attracted you?
When I was a young boy, I loved the sound of the blues, and I never knew, first of all, that there were different genres of music. I just knew that there was music that I liked and music that I didn't like. And whenever a blues track would come on, or whenever you know, like any real guitar heavy song that had an obvious blues influence, that resonated with me. I really, really liked that. And it was only in my teens, after listening to all sorts of music, you know, that I finally realized that, okay, so there's this specific genre that it's sort of like a folder on a computer. If you can open it, you see all this music that you really, really love. You just had no idea there was an actual label for it. So I don't know. Maybe in a previous life I was a blues man. Who knows?
Right, right. And you know, you've had a lot of success in your career so far. 3 of your singles have reached #1. You've had features and chart entries in the UK, Germany, Canada, and Australia. And you were a finalist in the US Banger Music Awards. What do you credit your success with?
Happenstance. I don't know. It was it was like I said, I mean, when I started out as a musician, I had no idea where it was going to go. You know what I mean? I just knew that music was going to be a part of my life forever. I never knew how big of a part it was going to be in my life. And that's why, I mean, when people ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? Music wasn't always the first answer, you know. There were a lot of other things, but it just always felt like you have to do something to support your music. You can't just be a musician. I mean, no one does that, but then it turns out you can actually do that if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to put in the effort, then you can actually make it happen. um so I'd say determination, just the fact that I listened to my soul, and I listened to what it was I wanted to make it, the sounds that I wanted to make with my instruments. And yeah, if you just stick to who you are. They always tell you when you're starting out as a guitarist that you have to find your own voice. You can't play like Stevie Ray Vaughan because Stevie Ray Vaughan played like Stevie Ray Vaughan. You have to find your own voice, and sometimes that voice sings, sometimes it doesn't. So there have been so many songs that I scrapped just because they never felt right. You know, the songs that I release are the only ones that really felt right to me. And I was fortunate at listening to my inner voice telling me this is it, this is the one. It actually worked out for me pretty well so far.
Right, right. And at this stage, so we'll dive into your early influences to see where you came from. So if you can you tell us your earliest musical memory?
My earliest musical memory. Wow, that's a good one. I guarantee it was Dire Straits. I guarantee it. And the reason I guarantee it is because my father and my uncle are both massive Dire Straits fans. So I grew up with them watching music DVDs, you know, like of live concerts and stuff. Oh man, I can't tell you how many shows I've fallen asleep to on the couch, you know, just with some of the greats playing. But I'm pretty sure it would have been watching a Dire Straits DVD with my dad and my uncle. That's the earliest memory I can think of right now, at least.
You obviously grew up then in a very musical household. There was obviously support for music, was there?
Oh, definitely. A lot of it comes down to the fact that I really suck at sports, right? So when I started playing music, there was something my dad could support me with, you know, because it was embarrassing if he came to watch a cricket game or something. So when we finally found something that I'm sort of naturally inclined to, he was like, "All right, cool, let's go full steam ahead, let's do that." And my mom as well. I mean, my mom will support anything. I could quit music now and become a mechanic, and she would support me. So yeah, I've got very supportive parents. They both played guitar for a little while in the church and stuff. So definitely a musical background in my family.
Right, right. And later on then in your teenage years, what kind of music were you exposed to, and how do you think it molded you into the musician you are today?
I was exposed to one of my all-time favorite bands when I was about 11 years old. It was my cousin's matric holiday. So he just finished high school and we all went to the coast for holiday and whatever. And the theme of that holiday was the Red Hot Chili Peppers. That's all he
Ah,
listened to the whole time. It was the first time I was introduced to them, and they've been a pretty massive part of my musical life ever since then. So yeah, when I said that some of my previous songs were funk, and a lot of my future songs to come will definitely have funky influences and stuff, that I have to give credit to Red Hot Chili Peppers for.
I have to admit, when you said earlier on funk, they were the first band that popped into my mind.
They just are one of those bands, though, aren't they? I mean, they've been running since the mid '80s, and they're still relevant today. I mean, it's not everyone that gets that level of success, and there's got to be something special there. With Red Hot Chili Peppers, for me, it's a love 'em or hate 'em kind of situation, and I happen to love them.
Yeah, yeah. And then as a concert goer, what concerts would you say have made you?
I have unfortunately not seen nearly enough international acts. Every international act that's come here, and I do mean every international act that's come here, I've missed. I've missed every concert for some reason or another. So the only real concerts I've attended have been local bands. And let me tell you, I mean, in South Africa, we have world-class talent. regarding music. It is, we have some of the best bands. We really, really do. And yeah, I mean, just seeing guys that grew up within an hour of your house playing such amazing inspirational music, um, that is, well, inspiring, for lack of a better word, you know. I've seen so many bands at local festivals and stuff, just because I haven't really toured internationally yet. I'd love to. It's definitely in the pipeline. But the local bands that make the SA music scene are, they're incredible, man. They just don't get the credit they deserve. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's an interesting one now because I've spoke to lots and lots of South African musicians, and first off, I always get the sense that it's completely different over there, that it's really laid back, like compared to other countries. They're so, like, I imagine if you're walking down the street in South Africa, you could see like the biggest rock star there and just go over and start talking to him, whereas you couldn't over here. But also, I'd love to get your opinion on why do you think it's like South African bands and musicians are almost held back, that they don't get more recognition outside of South Africa?
I think the main reason they don't get recognition outside of South Africa is because the genres that, I mean, I might get a lot of flack for this later, right? But the genres that actually make it, like the musicians in South Africa that actually make, well, a real success, are in genres that require very little talent. And the more technical guys, like the really good funk bands, really good metal bands, really good rock bands, they don't get the support from the local following that they should, because the people who are listening, like the general population who's listening to music prefers, well, Afrikaans pop music basically. So it's our version of pop music, and I'm not a fan of it at all in any way. And yeah, so if you're not gonna be selling out thousands of tickets in your own country, it's going to be very difficult for you to get any international recognition. You know what I mean? It's easy for us to bring in a band like Red Hot Chili Peppers, because all you have to do is you have to look at their following in their country. I mean, every show they play is sold out. Whereas here, it's really, really difficult for a rock band to sell out a show. Yeah, the support just seems to be in the wrong genre for me. But that's just my opinion. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that would say that those genres are very good, and there are people listening to them for a reason, obviously. So, but I think that's the main reason. If you can't really get a lot of traction in your country, it's difficult to have a good selling point in another country.
True. And I'm really looking forward to this now. For any listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what can they expect? Give them the full experience if you can.
Okay, well, it depends which show you come to. So I'm a solo artist predominantly. I started off. I played in a band, but was nothing super serious, and it gave me like a bit of perspective of what I wanted to be as a musician. And then I started playing solo. So when I play solo, I use a looper. So I'd lay down a loop on my acoustic guitar or whatever. And then I usually swap between my acoustic and electric, for solos and stuff and different parts of different songs. I also use a really old suitcase as my kick drum. So I've got like an old, I think it's a 1945, the suitcase was made according to the label on it. And I've got like a mid 70s floor tom mic inside it that runs with an XLR to my desk, and that's my kick drum. So that's quite unique. So if you're coming to one of my solo shows, I do a lot of, it gets a bit psychedelic at times. It's very funky, very bluesy. I do a lot of layers and stuff over the looper. So it's quite cool. It's quite a cool experience for someone that hasn't seen it, I'm sure. And when I'm playing with my band, we are a blues, rock, funk trio. So I've got a bassist and a drummer. They are absolutely incredible. And then I just play with the electric at this stage. I might bring in the acoustic in future shows. And then, yeah, it's like, it's a really cool, very powerful with a band mates, and all original music. So if you're into original music, if you're into funky, bluesy type vibes, then I'm right up your alley.
Sounds like a pretty good night.
Yeah, you should come check it out sometime when you visit South Africa.
I'll have to. I'll have to. And you know, what does it mean to you to be a traveling musician or a traveling blues man?
To me, it means freedom. It really means freedom. It's a freedom from the norm. I mean, when you tell people that, one of the first things you ask someone when you meet them is, "What do you do?" And the look on their face when I tell them I'm a musician, they're like, "And how do you eat? How do you eat food if you're a musician?" I love that. It's so cool because there's not a lot of people that do it full time. There's a lot of musicians, but a lot of them have day jobs as well. So to be doing it full time, I mean, I haven't had a boss in 7 years. I've been my own boss, and my success depends on my willingness to put in the work. So to be a traveling musician it means being comfortable sleeping in strange places for a lot of nights out of the year. It means not having your bed or your shower or, knowing where the grocery store is, having to figure it out on the fly. And it really means freedom, but freedom comes at a cost. I mean, I miss a lot of family events. I miss a lot of birthdays. I miss a lot of weddings, all those type of things because yeah, I'm always on the road.
That's a fairly bad downside to it. All right. How much time would you take off, or are you constantly traveling looking for the next gig?
I actually took off about 3 weeks, 2 weeks ago. So that was the first time in quite a while that I took off and for any length of time. I played an amazing festival in Mozambique in the end of May, and when I got back, I was just so beat up. It was just time for me to take a bit of a break, and it was the first break I took since the hard lockdown. um, and it was well deserved, I'd say. I mean, I play a lot of shows. I play an average of like 3 shows a week if I can, sometimes more, sometimes slightly less. Um, yeah, so time off is definitely important, but it also helps that I haven't had a Monday in 6 years. That helps a lot.
That would help, all right.
Yeah, definitely.
And you mentioned Mozambique there. You've also played in Namibia. Now, over on this side of the world, we would never get exposed to music or concerts in those places. What are they like?
Very similar to South Africa in certain senses. It's still a lot of the population is very Afrikaans, um, but they seem more laid back in Namibia compared to South Africa. In South Africa, depending on where you are, but if you're in the cities, you can get caught up in the rat race. That happens in any city, anywhere in the world. You get caught up in the rat race. So people are very single-minded, focused on their own lives and what they're doing and stuff. They don't really take time to smell the roses, so to speak. And my experience of Namibia was were a lot more open, um, a lot more receiving, a lot more hospitable to a well foreign band. Um, so yeah, I actually had quite good support when I was in Namibia, and I had a whale of a time. It was so cool. I've been meaning to go back. It's just hasn't worked out just yet, but I will be making my return to Namibia quite shortly this year, still, if I can.
Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Now, your gigs that you've played, I always ask, is there a gig experience you've had that you revisit in your mind over and over as maybe the best?
100%. So I've got one as a solo artist, and I've got one as a band. So as a solo artist, well, there's actually two that come to mind. I opened for Jeremy Loops in Bloemfontein a few years ago. That was amazing. Very, very cool. Such a cool crowd. They were there for Jeremy, obviously. But when I started playing, everyone was sort of scattered. There was no one right in front of the stage. Everyone was scattered, getting their drinks, saying hi to their friends, all those type of things. But by the end of my first song, I looked up because I'm very focused on what I'm doing. I don't really look at the crowd all that often. Um, so when I finished the first song and I looked up, there was just like an ocean of people in front of me, and they had all migrated to the stage to come see who's this guy, what's he doing? And that was a really, really cool experience for me because that was the first time something like that happened, and I just had this amazing response from this crowd who had no idea who I was. You know what I mean? And that was incredible. Really, really cool experience. The second one would have to be I played in Pretoria. It was like a sold out theater show, 120 tickets. So when I played, every song I played, as I started it, you could hear a pin drop. And if you're a gigging musician and you're used to playing in bars and stuff, you know that it's noisy. And a lot of the times the crowd doesn't even really notice that you're there or that you've started your song or finished the song or whatever. But at that show, 120 people, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in a small, intimate place, it's a lot of people. And between songs, you could hear a pin drop in the corner. They were so invested. They were sort of entranced by the music, and they were there for the music. And that was a very, very cool experience for me. And those type of shows make it easy to stick to your guns and stay a true musician, because that one good gig makes up for the 9 bad gigs, you know. But then when it comes to the band, I'd have to say Mozambique at Strab this year. It was an incredible show. I don't know what it was. There was just electricity in the air the whole time we were playing. It was such a good experience. So in 7 years, 7 years of performing professionally and almost every weekend, that stands out to me as the best show I've played. It was really, really good.
Every gig could be like that. It'd be pure heaven.
Oh, yeah, that doesn't exist. That's a
No.
utopia, and utopias don't exist.
Yeah. Now, to not to get too negative, but to switch it around, is there a gig experience you've had that you consider maybe the worst, and how did you deal with it?
I'd have to say the worst gigging experience I had, and this has happened many times since, many times, but this was the first time, and I wasn't prepared for it. In the moment, I didn't know how to deal with it, but I showed up to my gig. I was really, really looking forward to it, and I ended up playing for 2 people, the cashier and the man that made the pizzas. That was it. For 2 hours, I played for 2 people. No one walked through the door, nothing. And like I said, that was the first time that ever happened to me. And I was like, what's happening? Why is the universe conspiring against me? But it's happened many times since, and it just happens. You know, sometimes it just happens. If it's really cold outside, sometimes people would rather just stay home or whatever. I've had many gigs since, but it comes back to what I said earlier. At some point, I just made the switch in my mind that said I was going to be playing at home anyway to myself. You know what I mean? I might as well come hone my craft on an unfamiliar stage that is going to teach you something at the end of the day. Whether it's a very small lesson, you're going to learn something from every gig you play. And those bad gigs make you the musician that you end up being when you're playing to thousands of people.
True. I was just going to ask, how do you push through that then and not pack up and go home? Do you look at it as a paid rehearsal, or?
That's exactly it. Yeah. Well, it depends. I mean, sometimes it's not a paid rehearsal, right? If it's a door deal and no one shows up, you don't get paid. But most of the time, at least, yes, there is some sort of payment, or at least a bar tab, you know. So you get a couple of drinks, you maybe get a plate of food, and you play a few songs, which, again, you were going to be doing anyway. Might as well just go do it there.
Not too bad. The moments before showtime, how do you psych yourself up? Then afterwards, how do you kind of calm down after it?
The calming down is tough for me. It's really difficult. It also depends on the setting, obviously. If there are a lot of people that you know, sometimes the whiskey flows a bit too well. But as far as psyching myself up before shows, I've played so many solo shows in bars now that, you know, and unless it's a special circumstance or whatever, I don't really get nervous anymore. I get like a certain anticipation builds, but I don't really get nervous. So on my way to the gig or whatever, I'll just listen to some of my favorite songs, you know, that get me in a good frame of mind and get me ready to play. If it's a big show, I do get nervous. I get really, really nervous. I played a cool show this weekend with my band. We opened for 2 local legends, Djevels Fantasties and Karen Zoid. And I got to tell you, like before that show, I was proper nervous. After 7 years of doing it almost every weekend, I still got nervous. But we killed it. It was a great show. And I'm sure there'll be many more.
Brilliant. I've heard that when you notice that you stop getting that feeling, it's time to give up. So it's good that you still get the nervous energy.
Definitely, yeah. Especially if I'm playing a new venue, even though I'm playing the solo shows and stuff. I mean, I've got a lot of regular gigs that I play at least once, maybe twice a month. So for them, I don't really get nervous. Like I said, that anticipation still builds. But if I'm playing a new place that I haven't played before, I have no idea what to expect. Yeah, then there's definitely a level of nerves. And then like I said, that whiskey really helps. You have one whiskey before you go up, just takes that edge right off.
True, true. And when it comes to your career, then how do you measure success?
Well, that's a difficult one because I mean, success is so subjective, and it's constantly changing. You know what I mean? It's constantly changing. So for me, success would be as long as it sustains my lifestyle, which isn't a lavish lifestyle. I live a very reserved lifestyle. As long as it sustains my lifestyle and I'm still enjoying it, as long as I'm having fun with it, because that's the reason I started playing in the first place, because I love it and because it's fun. I don't mind it being a labor of love, but as soon as it turns to a labor of hate, that's not success for me. As long as I can keep playing, keep enjoying it, and still put food on the table, that's more than enough for me. I can't ask for any more than that.
It's a good way to look at it. And what are some items that are left on your bucket list then when it comes to your career? What achievements or road marks would you like to hit?
I'll tell you my ultimate dream. My ultimate dream with my music is to. It sounds so cliche when you say it, but it's honest and it's real. It's really what I want. I just want to travel the world from festival to festival, blues fests, rock fests, jazz fests, whatever it is. I just want to travel the world from festival to festival and do a couple small gigs in between, and I'll die a happy man.
That sounds like heaven. That just sounds
No,
like it couldn't get much better than that.
yeah, that would be amazing. I'd love a Saturday night show at Glastonbury or whatever. That'd be amazing. But I mean, you might as well shoot for the stars sometimes, right?
That's it. That's it. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, then future plans. I know you have a big gig the day after the record releases.
Yeah, yeah. It's quite exciting. I made the decision in Mozambique that I want to focus on the band. I really want to push the band into a direction that I haven't taken my solo shows with, and that's to actually start exploiting the whole ticket sales side of things. Putting together our own shows, selling tickets to the events, really putting some effort behind the marketing, and just taking matters into my own hands, so to speak. I had a realization that I love playing bars, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to be doing it when I'm in my 40s. I would rather be doing shows that I set up, theater shows. There's something special about selling tickets to a show, because if you're playing in a bar, there's usually going to be a lot of people that don't give a damn you're there or not. But if you're selling tickets and someone's bought a ticket to come see you, you can be sure they're going to be sitting and listening to you play. And those shows really mean something. Those shows are really, really cool. So, yeah, this is not our first, but our first really meaningful show that we're actually selling tickets to. And I'm sort of going to gauge it from there. I'm going to see, all right, cool. What can we improve on from this experience? What can we do differently? And what can we do to make sure next time there's a few more people, and then a few more people, and a few more people? And hey, who knows? Maybe a couple sponsorships follow after that. That would be nice, eh?
Yeah, it would.
We'll see how it unfolds. I'm open to suggestions.
Yeah. And any plans of further music throughout the rest of the year or anything?
Yeah, so I'm releasing Last Stand now. I might be releasing a couple more tracks by the end of the year, but all the songs that I've released so far, we're compiling onto a little album. It's more of an EP, but we're calling it an album. And we're gonna use the Woodstock Brewery show on the 5th of August to sort of officially release that album. And yeah, then I want to take it on the road. I want to do a couple tours if I can, a couple of small ones, and then maybe a really nice big long tour at the end of the year. Yeah, we'll see if my band's willing to hit the road with me.
Right. We'll dive into the last couple. So I'll start you off easy. If you didn't work in the music industry, what would you do?
Oh, that's a tough one because I kind of suck at everything else. Eh? This is the one thing I've got going for me, and thank goodness that's what I ended up doing for a living. I don't know. I've always been interested in engineering, so I felt that if I could apply myself a bit better in high school, I might have had a career as an engineer. It would have been quite fun for me. But music was always going to be on the sideline then, so I'm glad it worked out the way it did.
Right, right. And if you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
My goodness. That is not an easy question.
No.
But just for the sake, oh man, wow. That's a really tough one. I'm gonna have to say Jimi Hendrix. I'm gonna have to do it. It's a cliche, but I'm gonna have to say Jimi Hendrix. I feel like that would be, I'd be awestruck. I would be completely awestruck.
Yeah.
Jimi Hendrix, it is. Final answer. Final answer.
Perfect. And this is an odd one now, all right? But if you had to spend 24 hours locked inside a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
I think it would have to be Robert Johnson. And I would use the 24 hours to interrogate him on whether or not he actually sold his soul to the devil to play as well as he did for his time. I'd love to pick one of their brains, one of the really, really early forefathers of the blues. I'd say Robert Johnson. I'd like to spend 24 hours with him so I could find out where he came from and what it was that made him special, because he truly was. I mean, he paved the way for music as we know it today, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. I have to say, I'm delighted you said him. I've just won a bet with myself. When I was doing these questions, I said, I bet you he'll pick Robert Johnson.
Oh, wow. That's amazing foresight you have there. Eh?
Never works out any other time.
Well, I'm glad I could make your evening at least once. Eh?
Exactly. And the final one, so what song would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Oh, man. These are good questions. Eh? These are really, really good questions. I'm going to have to say Money for Nothing, because it's pretty true, man. I don't see what I do for a living as work. It really kind of is money for nothing. It's so fun. You know what I mean? I look at other career paths, and because I worked in an office, I know what goes into really earning your month's wages, and music is not it. It's got its challenges, sure, but it's so fun. It should be a sin name. So it's I'd say Money for Nothing. Yeah, I'd say Money for Nothing.
Has to be that one. So listen, Kenny, it's been an absolute blast now. Thanks a million for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me. What a privilege.
You only know where I came from. Who knows where I might go? Live life in the fast lane if you want to. I'm gonna take it slow. Got nowhere I need to be, not for now at least. Got no one I need to become. Yeah, can you see I'm already done? I'm a midnight man. I do what I want when I can. I'm a midnight man. I'm gonna take it slow. That's when I saw the scale, and I fell down to my knees. Remembered all those tales that I refuse to believe. Got nowhere I need to be, not for now at least. Got no one I need to become. Yeah, can you see I'm already
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.